How's it going, everybody? So today's topic ties into the whole indicator too fast, can't react anymore thing. I'm sure no one's bored of it at this point. The thing is that we immediately jump to indicator length and the speed of an attack when we conclude that something is too fast. While this definitely is the main reason, don't get me wrong, we don't really talk about animations all that often anymore. Clear and consistent animations are hugely important for an enjoyable experience, and some characters fall short in that department. Like I said, this ties into the whole reactable issue. I don't think any player solely plays off of animations or solely off of indicators. Well, maybe a handful actually do, but the vast majority always take both of these things into consideration. So, today's topic is going to be about animations then, and how the constant speeding up of old animations can lead to extremely confusing attacks that are perceived faster than they actually are. And on top of that, we're going to look at what even a tiny bit of lag can do here, and I'll try to explain why an attack that has the correct indicator length, yet a messed up animation, can screw with the player. Let's start with the sad practice of speeding up existing animations. We've had this happen recently in the Core Combat update with Highlander, but we've also seen this in the past plenty of times. Jung Jun recently had his light animations completely reworked, which now look infinitely better and more consistent. Back in the day, we had heroes with lots of 600 ms lights. Be that neutral or combo, doesn't really matter. Those were slowly phased out, and right now we only have a few remnants left, like Greatest Chain top lights or Jeonhu's unblockable finisher lights. The usual procedure when changing an attack speed was to take the old animation and simply speed it up. Jung Jun, Raider, Orochi, just to name a few examples. The main problem is that the animations that were motion captured and then put into the game were designed to be a certain speed. I'm obviously not saying that actors can reliably make a move a certain speed. Obviously the people rigging it define the actual speed. But this doesn't change the fact that the initial design of an attack was different, compared to the sped up animation that eventually ended up being in the game. Don't get me wrong here, I'm not saying that attacks shouldn't have been sped up. 600 ms chain lights clearly were garbage and almost unusable, and the change was needed, but the proper way of doing that should have been by introducing completely new animations. Just like what we got with Jung Jun recently. You can also clearly see the quality difference on Orochi. Now that all these are back to their quote-unquote old speed, they look way more fitting than what you currently see on, for example, Highlander. Highlander's combo light was supposed to be 700, but is now sped up to almost half the intended length. That's one of the reasons why it doesn't feel like all the other 500 ms lights, because the animation is just not good enough. As we can see, this also leads to mass complaints about light spam, especially on Highlander, and plenty of people employ that very tactic and even more complain about it. A lot of them for the wrong reasons, but I do think that it is very important to have clear, and the most important point, consistent animations. High latency, packet loss and all that good stuff is a major contributor when it comes to these inconsistencies. The main problem is that we got weird cut-off animations or even some skipping parts of the animation midway through the attack. I need to go on a little tangent here, or rather explain a few things first. The way our brain and eyes work together is a factor here, and no, I'm not going weird on you here. And when I first read about this, I wasn't even sure whether this is applicable to our game, but the more I thought about it, the more sense it made to me. This is all in the context of why skipping animations throw us off more than we might think. Alright, so unlike many of you think, our eyes don't really perceive an accurate image of our surroundings. Only with the help of our brain do we see an actual sharp image, because our eyes only perceive what's in direct focus. Everything around it is blurry, but we do not realize this because our brain is making up for it. Our eyes actually only make up 10% of the information that our brain needs for our visual perception. I'm not going to bore you with the details here of which part is in charge of shapes, of colors and whatnot, but it's important to realize that our brain saves a lot of images in a kind of archive and uses that to put together a sensible image. So every time you see something, it doesn't have to be reinterpreted again and again, but the brain can make sense of it because it is already familiar with it and has this archive to go back to. The older you are, the bigger your archive. This saves a lot of energy for our body because newly interpreting everything each time would overstress our viewing center. And I think that is applicable to the game as well. The longer you've played, the more you've seen each and every animation, and that is why it's also harder to react to a newly released hero, as you just haven't seen all of the animation hundreds of times. Some of us have seen thousands of Warden zones, for example. The start of the animation, the little spinning around, is enough for our brain to know what's coming next. Or at least it should be, that's how I understood it. So flickers and shitty animations that force our brain to correct its anticipation with the new information from our eyes will probably confuse us. And we all know that even a slight hiccup in our reaction can mean getting hit by something that we usually block or parry easily. This is also one of the reasons optical illusions work. A very simple one, for example. Let's say the stage magician is telling you he's going to make a ball disappear by throwing it in the air. So they throw it up 2 times, and the 3rd time it somehow vanishes midair for you. In reality, the guy just didn't throw it at all, but your brain just assumed that the same thing as the first 2 times would happen and interprets the information that way. That's why it seems to just disappear for you. That is because the brain not only relies on information from the past, but also anticipates what is going to happen next, and that's how it comes up with these projections. I hope all that makes sense to you as well, and why I think that it is relevant to our game. We obviously don't have to purely rely on animations as we have an indicator system, but I highly doubt that anyone is purely relying on either of these, just like I mentioned at the beginning. It's always a mixture of both. I'm sure indicators play the bigger role, but we can't disregard the interaction of the two. We're probably never going to have a game with just animations. We do have the realistic game modes that tend to pop up from time to time, but they don't really seem to be a community favorite. Usually you can only find matches reliably the first day or so. Yet, we should not forget how important animations still are, and that them being clear and consistent is hugely beneficial to the overall enjoyment of the game. We can just hope that the changes to Jung Jun's animations and the part about latency in the latest Ubisoft survey are indicative of upcoming positive changes, or at least plans for changes. But yeah, that's it. Feel free to share your point of view on this. I hope the video was interesting. Thanks for watching. Laters, everybody.
He got revenge very quickly.
Well, he had been fighting.
No! My heavy got interrupted by the Zerker.
Why
Is
does
he
that
so
JJ
angry?
keep
I mean, I'm angry too when playing this game, but not to this degree.
Oh. Yeah, sure. Target touch away from him when he's, like, gone. Ow, Nutella, you got me again.
That's to know why you have fun with that.
Yep, it is my turn to bowling. I will go for long execution.